Happy April, Campers Inn team. It's been a couple months since we did our last update. I missed April. I apologize for that. Lots of travel and going to try to catch up for it here in May and give also a first quarter recap on what we're seeing and what's going on and how things look out there in the market. So before I forget, one of the notes I had was on security, on digital security and maintaining a favorable kind of posture with phishing attempts and emails. And just as a reminder to everybody, don't click on anything that you didn't expect. You can call someone, confirm, text them, that sort of thing. But if it looks fishy, just try to avoid those emails that are trying to expose us or our data. So that's just a friendly reminder. So anyway, it's been a couple months. So what are we seeing out there in the market? What's going on in the industry? So what's the good news is that the market is still much better than it was pre-pandemic for RV sales, RV interest, campsite bookings. We even heard from a guest speaker at a recent event at the Industry Power Breakfast. So campgrounds are still extremely full and bookings are really good. So it's way better than pre-pandemic. The negative side is that it's not quite as good as 2021, which was a ridiculous all-time high for the industry, and most of us recognize that. So when we look at things like our leads, our traffic, our sales, it's somewhere in between those two. So still much better than pre-pandemic, but not quite as good as 2021. So I'm going to be talking about market share a little bit and some other things. But what's interesting for us as a company is we're seeing that our average stores, so more than average actually, are taking market share. And we're doing that through a whole bunch of different things. By taking market share, what I mean is we're seeing a new unit volume a little bit less than what it was last year as an industry, but our average store is actually taking market share and not seeing nearly the decline that the industry is. So a few things. We've talked about website maintenance before. That's huge. Having the right number of pictures, over 30 pictures per RV, having units priced, those are really driving it. Making sure that we're converting those e-lead customers, that's having a humongous impact, and really appreciate what the team did in March. It was one of our better months that we've had. The stores that we're seeing daily sales training, manager TOs, sales managers going over salesperson goals with the salespeople monthly. Where we're seeing those systems of activities that are really the core of a high-performing sales team, we're seeing those stores take some significant market share, not just a little bit. So that's awesome to see. The stores that are maybe getting those system activities re-implemented after pandemic times, maybe it's some of those stores we're not seeing it as much. So one of the things that we're also seeing is that margins are more spread than what they have been on the sales side. So we're seeing the high margins still on certain RVs, and we're seeing much more normalized margins as well, and we're seeing everything in between. And that's kind of what we'd expect now that inventory is becoming much more available on the towable side, almost fully available, other than a couple key brands on the towable side. Motorhome side, not so much. We know that the chassis, especially the Ford chassis, are still a challenge. So a lot of our stores that are doing really well, they're looking at the quotes, they're seeing where they can improve, seeing where the opportunities are and taking advantage of it. But it's that basic activities with sales, with training, with coaching our teammates that's driving it. On the used side, we're actually seeing the used is incredibly strong across the board right now. So used is the new used mix. So how many new RVs we sell per used RV, it's been compressing. So we're selling far more used RVs to new RVs than we have in the past. And the theory behind that is we're probably seeing that some of those price points that, the 19.9, 24.9 price points that used to pre-pandemic that were filled with new are now being sold to the used customer. So it's kind of interesting to see that. And trust me, we are working with the manufacturers to get back some of those price points. Jeff, Destiny, myself, Tom Stinnett just finished up a trip to Elkhart, Indiana last week. Jeff was actually a guest speaker at the Power Breakfast. And one of the topics that we had when we went and visited the manufacturers was getting back to these price points and making sure that we have the affordable RVs that the customers were used to pre-pandemic. So that is on the industry's mind. So we think there's an opportunity there. We'll continue to work with the manufacturers. But in the meantime, used is incredibly strong at those prices. On the inventory side, it's very interesting. So if you think of those, getting back to those price points, well, what does that mean? It means that we're thinking, and the manufacturers are thinking, that there's a good chance that new inventory values could adjust. They may not go down. They may or may not. There's really a lot of debate in the industry, but there might be more of what the sales team's used to with like LE models, like limited edition and decontented RVs in order to get there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out really between now and open house and kind of, which is September, and then open house in the end of the year. We think that there's going to be a lot of moving going on. So what does that mean for inventory? It means that we got to be on the light side of inventory. So with rapid changes, we want to make sure that we're in a position to take advantage of some of those different things that'll come out, some of those changes. And that means that we don't want to have a whole bunch of inventory going into the fall. We really need to be lean there and make sure that we have the freshest, best priced inventory as we head into the fall and then winter. So that's a huge team effort on this in this area, is that we've got to keep the turns up on the new inventory and make sure that we're adapting to the environment, because it is going to change quite a bit. The manufacturers are admitting that. None of us know exactly what it's going to look like, but we all are seeing that there's change on the horizon. And one of the areas that we have to be especially careful of is stick and tin, because of the elasticity on the margins, basically the price points, and then how we think that market's going to shift probably the fastest. So with that being said, it's actually pretty exciting times for Campers Inn. So you might have listened to the first couple minutes that I'm talking and saying, well, that sounds negative. It's actually not negative, because our company is a really great and resilient company because of you all and the ability for our team to kind of weather these things. So what's really interesting is we're gaining traction in a bunch of different areas. So one of the things that we heard while we were in Elkhart, and it was really exciting, was several manufacturers have mentioned to us that Campers Inn is the talk of the town, if you want to call it that way, in Elkhart, because we are taking market share in a big way as one of the multi-dealers. So a few of the manufacturers actually mentioned this to us. And the reality is that it's part of a plan. We've been really making sure that we are a market share leader, and our manufacturers can trust us to not just do a good job with their products, but outperform the markets with their products. So when it comes to that, here are all the stores that through the first quarter have actually taken market share. So I'm going to list every store that's taken market share this year, year over year in the first quarter. So Ackworth, Charleston, Conway, Davenport, Jacksonville, Kings Mountain, Louisville, Merrimack, Minot, Myrtle Beach, Naperville, Ocala, Philly, Raleigh, Raynham, Richfield, and Union. Every single one of you has taken market share year to date in the first quarter. If I didn't mention your store, the good news is we're going into selling season, so you have the best opportunity to actually get back some of that market share you might have lost and take market share here through the rest of the year. So it's really important for us to continue to focus on that market share piece, especially as it pertains to the travel trailer side and the stick and tin side. Those are areas where we need to be known as a performer. You know, the reality is like in Class Cs, if we lost a little bit of market share on some Class Cs, a lot of that's allocation based on Ford chassis. So we may not have as much control over that as we do travel trailers, which are fairly abundant at this point. And I know a few of you are going to say there's a couple brands like Rockwood, Flagstaff that are further out than 6 to 8 weeks, but most of the brands are now about 6 to 8 weeks on reorders, which is good. So congratulations to all the teams that are continuing to take market share and really make sure that we do a good job for our partners as well and for our customers. There's a reason customers are choosing to do business with us, and really appreciate that. Okay, some other highlights for the first quarter. So some things that are really cool is we've been focusing on service, and a bunch of my monthly updates have been on service. But the service team has added a whole bunch of technicians, didn't lose collectible efficiency for it, kept the CSI, and a lot of stores actually improved the CSI and is beating year over year same store available income on the service side. So service teams in general, you're kicking butt. Really appreciate what you're doing. One of our consultants, John Spader, some of you may have met him at some point. He made the comment that from an efficiency standpoint, our average store is running in the top 5% of the industry. So you should all feel really good about that. Really appreciate that. And then F&I has actually improved on the ASP side year over year. So congrats to the F&I team. And you've done it in spite of some increases in average sale price. So that's actually a really good feat. And then parts, same stores, ahead of